Okay, welcome. Here is your first short video. There won't be very many, but I do want to get you into this and get you started on the right foot. So we are starting with graphic novels. You see here the 9 titles we have. We'll talk about them a little bit in class. You'll kind of read a little bit about them and decide your top 3 choices. It's the first one you want to read, second and third. I do not have a class set for all of them. I just have a handful of each of them for each class. So that's why you'll rank them, and hopefully you'll get one of your top 3 choices, if not the top choice of what you want. So on your packet, it's going to ask you about your Lexile, and you're going to get some information in here about it. Your Lexile is a measure of reading ability and how hard or how complicated some text is. And then it's given a level. So it's from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. It's like a legitimate thing. Your Lexile, if you were with me in the fall and you took the FastBridge test, you have a Lexile score. If you don't have one, we will be taking it again in winter. Most of you did really well at it, and I think it's a pretty accurate measure, at least on that test, of how you read. So you're going to come ask me for that, and I will give that to you to put in your packet. That's going to be important to know. What it comes from, just quickly, just a super short background. Lexile includes 2 things, syntactic complexity and semantic difficulty. Syntactic is, we've talked about this when we've looked at the syntax of words, like the number of words that an author uses, longer and shorter sentences. So the level is based on that, as well as word frequency. Word frequency is how often a word appears in print. You know some words and you're super fluent on them and you can breeze right through them because you see them all the time, as opposed to less familiar words that you see that are more specific to a certain topic, that are new to you, that your brain has to kind of slow down and process to figure out what it means. So what you see on the left are things that Lexiles kind of help address or look at. The age appropriateness of a text, the support that a text gives to a reader to help figure that out, and the quality of the text by the Lexile definition. What you bring to the text, though, is your interest, your motivation, a ton of background knowledge. You all have different knowledge based on your experiences, the life you've lived, the people you know, the things you've read, all kinds of things. And then also, I talk a lot about giving you purpose of what you're reading, but your context and purpose you also bring to it, which kind of ties into that first one about your motivation. Real quick example, John's Lexile on his FastBridge test was 940, which falls in that range of 840 to 990. And there's a book below that has the same Lexile. He'd be able to read that because it falls in his range with about a 75% comprehension independently. That's our goal. We want you to be at least 75% at 75% comprehension, because at that level, you will not be frustrated by encountering too much hard stuff, and you won't be bored because it's too easy. So what we call it is kind of the functional comprehension. You can get through that text successfully and be sufficiently challenged with a handful of some new vocabulary and some sentence lengths, and it's going to help you improve your reading without knocking you down and having you shut the book because you don't get what's going on. So 75% is the right amount, and that's where I want you to be in this unit. Just some interesting information. Once you know your Lexile, here's some career clusters. If you already know or maybe have an idea of what you want to get into, check out where these Lexiles are. That's the kind of material you need to be successfully able to navigate in these fields. And also there's some more specific jobs here that also give you kind of the medium text demand of the materials you'd have to encounter in these fields. At the Lexile level of the content you'd be looking at or dealing with. So I think that's interesting to see. You will see they kind of group them in bands, and there's some overlap in some of these bands, as you can see in front of you on the screen. The last category is grade 11 up through college and career ready. So some of you might already be off of that Lexile band. Some of you might be close, some of you might be a little bit below it. But what it's just showing you is kind of where you might be and what a stretched band is. Stretch colleges or colleges that you're not sure you're going to get into, but you really would want to try. That's the same thing with Lexiles. These levels would be kind of where you want to start to push yourself to get to be a more successful reader. So how do graphic novels fit into this? They're going to help us with visual literacy because they're pictures in here and drawings, which is definitely important today in the social media world that you guys live in. It's going to help you if you are someone who doesn't like to read. It's going to help you think critically. It's really, really good if English is not your first language. And they're considered real books, and while they may look easier because of the visual, they're not. They still tell stories, and they just have that really nice imagery to them that helps you visualize. If you are someone who, when you read, you struggle to visualize what they might look like or what things are happening, graphic novels will help you start building that visual image for yourself. So that makes them more engaging, and you almost don't know that you're critically thinking about it as you are visually attacking the text as well with the support of those pictures and images. So it's same kind of story. You might have a plot, character, theme, same kinds of things you'd see in a narrative. Has the elements of film, which helps, again, you interpret meaning through images. And the really nice thing is this last bullet. It's going to reduce the text overload. Therefore, if, again, you don't like to read, or if you are a struggling reader, it's going to really decrease your anxiety about reading print because it's not all print. There's a lot of support within the text to understand it without it just all being print heavy. So a couple of these things I've already said. Ours are first person or autobiographical. Some of them are actually memoirs. It's through sequential art that you're going to see that story unfold. And it does follow, I think all of ours follow kind of a traditional comic format. 3 things you're going to need to know. This first thing is the boxes. I call them boxes or panels. The space between them is called the gutter. And then you're going to see different kinds of balloons and how they communicate the text. First thing, a few things about panels. It kind of shows you a segment at a time. And you can see some are 1 panel across the middle, 2 panels at the top, 3 on the bottom. They can be different sizes depending on what the author is trying to show us. And transitions kind of just happen as you move through them, but it also helps you focus and kind of helps you pace your reading as you are kind of looking and reading what they're saying at the same time. Most of ours are read in a traditional way. I believe all of them are kind of left to right, top to bottom. Word balloons, these are some different kinds. Here you see one that kind of has that little tail down to the speaker. They're talking. Whispering might be a grayed out box, or it might even be smaller print or squiggly print sometimes. A thought balloon looks like a cloud. Screaming might be kind of these accentuated balloon characteristics, or even sometimes in big print. These things are obviously separate from the pictures that you're going to be seeing. Excuse me. Here is a story balloon. They're not talking, but they're telling the story through narrative to kind of get you into the story, but no one is speaking yet. These are not dialogue balloons. Here you have Garfield. You see everything he's thinking, which is how he communicates, because you can tell they're kind of these little dots and then this kind of cloud balloon. And here you finally have dialogue balloon with the tail going down to the people that are speaking. Sometimes it's a close-up of them, sometimes it's not, but you kind of see as they talk back and forth through dialogue. You also will have, obviously, some sound effects, which is using text and the literary element of onomatopoeia to convey a sound of something happening in a story. The other element that I want you to be aware of is gutters. That's that space between the panels. This first one, I'm just going to give you a few of them. Action to action gutter. That's showing you one action literally to the next action as it transitions. Subject to subject is moving from one subject and kind of changing the subject in the storyline. It helps you kind of get involved in kind of the bigger picture of what's happening with that character. And then finally, scene to scene, which is moving you across time. So you might kind of do some time jumping or go back in time and move from the current scene, and then you see, oh my gosh, now the character is a baby. They've obviously gone back in time. And aspect to aspect, you can see kind of aspect is like different sizes and aspects of this character. You see him from the back, you see a corner of his face, and then you see a close-up of his face, and then you don't see his face. So those are different aspects of that scene that they want you to see. Okay, this got a little bit long. It's the only one, I promise, that is like that. But these are the things you need to be aware of as you're reading. Kind of have that information as you are to tackle your text, and I wish you luck.